Let's rewind this and start back from the beginning. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Hell of a Boss Mission Zero. And this is interesting because this came out on Amazon Prime yesterday. It's not set to come out onto YouTube though until October 25th. There's I think I heard it was like 40 days specifically. I'm not going to do the math, but I heard it was like 40 days specifically as a window between original release on Amazon Prime to the release on YouTube. So Amazon can make money, I guess, cuz they need it. But this caused this episode to be harder for me to find. Cuz I make it no secret that I download these episodes because it makes it easier on my computer, it makes it easier for the reactions. It allows for things to run smoother. And so sometimes with Hell of a Boss stuff, because it's on YouTube, I will react to it straight off YouTube for sake of ease. But you've also noticed sometimes that has caused problems, from lag to just various other issues with the video like freaking out and stuff, and it's annoying. Um, and so I was thinking that with it being on Amazon Prime now, it would be easier because it's like, oh, it's posting on Amazon Prime. People are going to take it a little more seriously. It'll be posted fairly quickly to the different sites I use to download these episodes. Nope, apparently not. At least not with this. Um, in the 12 hours or so, well, I spent like 12 hours or so yesterday. Periodically, of course, not all like during just those 12 hours. But periodically throughout those 12 hours, I kept checking all the different sites I use. And at no point during that had the episode appeared on those sites. Actually, I think it was a little over 12 hours. But either way, none of these sites was showing it. And even the sites that had Hell of a Boss, obviously sites that didn't have that, I'm not counting, but the sites that had like all of Hell of a Boss season 1 and 2 on them, just what we're not posting that for whatever reason. Um and that does make me worry about Has Been Hotel, but I'm hoping that that one, when season 2 comes out in October, is going to be a little better, because I'm hoping that, for lack of a better way to put it, because Has Been Hotel is more mainstream, more of a actual like studio series rather than Hell of a Boss, which is still independent. It's just being published on Amazon Prime. I'm hoping that helps Has Been Hotel season 2 when it comes out in October, but we'll see. We'll see. It's just going to be hard to say at this point. So, for now, I did manage to find this finally, and so we're good. Now, to get into the meat of what this is, for those who don't know, Mission Zero is a remake of the pilot. The original pilot for Hell of a Boss that was released on YouTube and everything um, is not canon to the main series. Unlike the pilot for Has Been Hotel, which has remained canon, despite a couple issues with that in regards to how that works with the lore and various things not quite connecting properly. Hell of a Boss's pilot was specifically stated to not be canon. And so the team decided to make an updated version of the pilot that would be canon. That would be like entirely canon to the main story of the of the full series. And that's what this is. This is a remake of the pilot. I don't know how accurately it's going to follow the pilot. Probably not very. It's probably going to have some of the same kind of beats to it, but be its own thing otherwise, because it's kind of got to be. Like, you're remaking the pilot because the original's not canon. You can't really follow the same story, you know? There's got to be notable differences. But I'm very curious to see how this goes, because with this being a remake of the pilot, that means this takes place before the events of season 1. It is a prequel to everything else. And so I'm curious to see, like, what we're going to get into this, what, like, place during the timeline this is going to take place during, and how it's going to work with all of the canon, all of the lore that we've set up between seasons 1 and 2, with what we know of what happened prior to the events of season 1. Stuff like, you know, when Millie and Moxie first met and everything. IMP kind of starting after Blitz and Moxie got out of prison and everything. Just various things like that. I'm very curious. But one thing to note is that this is going to be completely uncensored. The original pilot was censored because it was put onto YouTube, and you know how YouTube is. So that's the big thing. The Amazon Prime releases for Helluva Boss, not only just the season 1, season 2 uploads of that, but also everything coming up are going to be fully uncensored. Which means that season 3, when that does happen, is probably going to be a lot more intense in terms of, you know, everything. Swearing, blood and gore, probably more crazy things happening than at either of the previous seasons, because they're going to be able to now. But that also means that they, you know, uncensored, unbleeped everything in seasons 1 and 2. And I assume the original pilot is probably going to be on there too, unless they're just foregoing that completely for the Amazon Prime thing and just using this completely as the new pilot for Amazon, which I'm fine with that. But I guess the only way to really tell, the only way to really find out how much they're going to go in with that is to check this out. I'm excited because I'm assuming this is going to be more akin to how Helluva Boss has become, and less akin to the original pilot, which I've made no secret of I hated. Like, I did not like it, and it's the main reason why I wasn't reacting to Helluva Boss at first, like I was with Has Been Hotel. Because I really didn't like the pilot, and I thought, like, if I'm going to watch this series, I don't want to react to it. Mind you, the actual series ended up being fantastic and completely changed my mind. But God, the pilot was so bad. It wasn't funny. It wasn't entertaining. The characters were like caricatures of what they would end up becoming. And it just wasn't good. It wasn't well put together. It wasn't well written. It wasn't well paced or handled. Like, you compare it especially to Has Been Hotel's pilot, and it's like night and day. And so I'm hoping that Mission Zero basically fixes everything with that. It's not as long as, like, Helluva Boss full episodes are these days. So I'm not, like, expecting, like, any big thing with that. But yeah, I'm hoping that it fixes the issues I had with the pilot and makes it that much better. So we're gonna see, we'll check it out and hope for the best. So let's get into it and see what Mission Zero has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this pilot, or I guess we'll call it the new pilot, yeah, is drastically better than the original. I would not say this is amongst my favorite Helluva Boss episodes. I'll call it an episode. It's basically still an episode. It's just a shorter one. It's not amongst my favorites, I would say, but it's so much better than the original pilot. It's so drastically better. First off, this gives a more clear time frame for when this takes place than the original pilot. The original pilot doesn't give an exact time frame of when it's supposed to be. This one basically tells us that this is at the very start of IMP. Blitz has just created IMP as a concept, as a thing. He's begun advertising, but they have not taken on a job yet. And so, or rather that they're about to take on their very first job. And so we see him talking to Moxie and Millie about this, explaining it to them on what this is all going to be. So we know that this takes place obviously after Moxie and Blitz got out of prison. We know it takes place after Blitz originally recruited Millie and everything. And this is after Millie and Moxie are together. But I don't actually know if this is before or after they're married. Because it doesn't... did it say, did they call themselves married in this? And I just kind of flew over my head or something? It's probably still after, I would wager. Because But in the episode where it showed Millie's past and everything, didn't they first come to the IMP offices when she still had her longer hair? So this is probably And when they first came in, isn't that when she and Moxie met, I believe? I'm trying to remember. I think it's it was showing during the flashbacks that Blitz brought them into the office. She still had her long hair, and that's when she met Moxie. So this might be shortly after that. So they might not technically be married yet at this point. I said it was more clear on when the timeline was. I didn't say it was exact. But we got a specific age for Luna. At this point in time, Luna is 22. We knew Luna's in her early 20s. We actively knew that. But a specific age has never been stated. And I believe in the episode with the dorks, I can't remember what it was called at the moment, but I believe Millie said that she's 5 years older than Luna, so she's 27 at this point. Which I always felt like Millie and Moxie were probably in their late 20s, so that tracks. That's believable. So, and we know the Ozzy's episode is their 1 year anniversary, right? So I'm thinking that Millie and Moxie probably got married pretty quickly after meeting and falling in love and everything. This probably takes place before they got married. They got married sometime shortly after this, while already working with IMP. And they then we had the anniversary and everything. So yeah, the Ozzy's episode is 1 year after that. That's my guess as to the timeline of this. Unless I'm wrong, and unless they did say something about them being married already in this, and I just, again, it flew over my head or something. Because that can happen sometimes. When you're reacting to something, you're reacting to it, and sometimes you might miss some things because you have to actively, react while you're watching. But yeah, that was definitely better handled in this than in the pilot still. I also like that this was kind of the build up to their first mission rather than like actually showing it. In the original pilot, you had the entire thing with Eddie, I think his name was, the kid and everything. And you saw that like they had already shot him and brought him back to hell with them. But then ended up having to kill him after that and chopped up his body and shit. But we saw like they shot him in the human world as a mission. And we did see in the like in Millie's little fantasy version of how this was going to go, we did see Eddie in there, so a little callback to that. But we never actually saw them like actually kill anyone in this because all of these were just like their ideas for how it was going to go. You know, with Moxie's being more professional, stealthy and stuff like that. I don't know, made me think of what's that game slash book series called? Splinter Cell. That's usually I feel like depicted with having like the night vision goggles looking like that and everything. So that's what I thought of at least. But then you have Millie's, which is just kind of like rip and tear until it's done kind of energy. And Blitz is just like, let's just kill them. I just want to kill them. I don't care how we do it. Well, he does care. He doesn't want to do it like Moxie. He wants to have fun with it. It's just like he doesn't have a plan outside of that. Um we get to hear both the original jingle and like an updated rock version of it, which I like rock covers of like non-rock songs. I think that's always fun. For example, during the holidays every year, I usually get rock and metal covers of holiday songs because they're just better than the originals in like every way. Also, I just like rock and metal music, so that's always a plus to me. Um, we also had Luna in this, pretty much serving as much of a role as in this as she did in the original pilot. She's there, she exists. She doesn't really have much of a role in this at all. Blitz is treating her about the same as he did originally, though. Treating her as like he's babying her. He's babying her and treating her like a child, even though she's 22. And it's like, yeah, that's how Blitz treated her at first. He's gotten better. He has absolutely gotten better in how he treats Luna and everyone else. And that's kind of a big point. This is Mission Zero. This is resetting things back to how they used to be. We do have to take that into account. And we see that best with Blitz and Stolas. Their relationship here is shown as purely carnal. The love that we know that they gain for each other has not come into play yet. In fact, Blitz is basically shown here as not giving a shit about Stolas at all. He literally fucked him just to get the book, and because he likes to fuck things. It's like there is no love in this relationship yet. That does come in later, and we see how it evolves and how their relationship grows. Remember, the last actual episode we got, the holiday episode last year, um, ended with these two having a romantic dance together with genuine feelings like between them. Like they love each other now. Like true, genuine, real love. And so kind of going back to this is a little bit of whiplash, but it makes sense. And I was prepared for that because this is a remake of the pilot. This is meant to be the prequel to the main series. So I was expecting that it was going to go back to that. And boy, did it. The one thing that kind of is confusing to me, though, is that they did censor Stolas here. And I assume that's just for this. I assume that's just for Mission Zero as a little callback to them doing it in the original pilot. Um, but it's just confusing because they made this big deal out of the fact that with Amazon Prime and all, they're not going to be censored anymore. That with with them being on Amazon Prime, everything's going to be uncensored. At least on the Amazon Prime versions. Can't really say in regards to when it comes to YouTube, but this should be uncensored. Right? Again, unless that's just the joke, which it probably is. Because they kind of poked fun at censorship during this pilot as well. So there's a little bit to that I like. The humor in this is also a lot less edgy, for lack of a better word. In the original pilot, the humor was like, it was trying way too hard. And that was one of my biggest issues with it. It was meant, the original pilot was meant to be funny. It was meant to be comedic. It wasn't at all. It was not funny. It was so actively try hard. And I hate using this term, phrase, whatever you want to call it, because it's so stupid and overused, and it's often just used in, a terrible way just for the sake of insulting someone. But or something, the writing someone put into something. You know what I mean? But I have no better way to describe this right now. The writing in the original pilot felt like it was written by Tumblr. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of the meme version of Tumblr, because Tumblr, I've used Tumblr, it's never actually been like what people say it is. But like the way people talk about Tumblr, as in like the meme-y way that they view it, that's what the original pilot seemed like to me. It was trying way too hard. It was being way too intentionally edgy, and it didn't integrate any of its jokes in well. It felt like it was just random jokes just like plopped in without any care about how they fit in with anything. If they made any sense, if they were funny, if they, worked for the scene and the characters. And it was just bad because of that and other reasons. But I just feel like it didn't understand what it wanted to be at the time, and that makes sense. And of course we do have some, more adult humor in this, especially with Stolas and whatnot, which makes sense. That's not the issue. Isn't having adult humor, it's the way it's integrated in, the way it's handled. And it was definitely done better here. It feels more natural, it feels less edgy, and it feels less forced in. It feels more natural to how things would go. Like, even Stolas and the way he like came in and everything, because of like just the residual horniness after the previous night, like that just makes sense and it works out, and it's a bridge for him, going off the rails like he does. Early Stolas, I should specify, does that. And again, I think it's really well handled in terms of how the jokes are integrated in with each character. Not to mention, I just like the concept better of them going over how they're going to do this, rather than the idea of like they're just already involved in all this mess. I especially like that they're like, I guess Blitz's example of these bad guys is just the most comically over the top evil people possible. That was a good friendly. That was a good funny joke that I think worked really well. That it shows kind of Blitz's dumbass view of this all. um, and simplistic idea of what evil people are. And that's funnier than anything they did in the pilot. And that's the interesting thing you have to take into account too, because this Mission Zero is trying to be, let's be honest, more comedic than the show typically is. The show is, more emotional and more about character depth and developments and story and all of that. And it has a lot of humor in it too. But it's not really about the humor. And Mission Zero definitely is about the humor. But it still feels like it's better integrated in a way that makes it still feel natural to the rest of the main series. And the comedy, unlike in the original pilot, is actually funny. It actually works. It makes sense. It's logical. It's fitting with the characters. And it feels more well thought out. The entire thing feels more well thought out. And I just appreciate how it's done in so much more of a way. It's a fantastic new pilot. That again, I wouldn't put at the top. It's not like on the level of the Fizzarali episodes or anything like that, but it's still drastically better. And I feel like it understands the vision of the series better than the original pilot ever did. And I hope that this is going to also help a lot of newer fans who are coming into this understand the show better than the original pilot did. Because the original pilot set forth this like precedent for the show that people thought it was going to be a pure comedy show about like taking on these jobs. And it's like that was never what it was going to be. And that's another reason I hated the pilot, because it gave this like unrealistic expectation. And so many people ended up hating what the series became because it didn't remain comedy and didn't remain talking about like or focusing on the missions. And it's like it was never going to be that. And you just assumed it was going to be like that because the pilot made you think that. The original pilot was so bad for so many reasons, but that might be the biggest, because it really fucked up the show. And not the show itself, but how the show is perceived by so many. Because the show didn't turn out the way that they thought it was going to. They ended up like acting like, oh, the show's gone to shit, it's become bad or whatnot. And it's like, no, you just misunderstood. Honestly, I feel like the first episode proved that pretty well and good as to what the show was actually going to be, but people just ignored that. They just focused entirely on the comedic aspect, and it's like, and the mission aspect, and I'm not going to get into that entire argument any further though, because it's like that shit like irritates me as it is. But yeah, this was just far superior in every way. It was funnier, it delivered some notable lore right off the bat, and it was great at showing these characters back where they used to be, and allowed us to like get a really good view of also how far they've come since then. Though for anybody who watches this first, they're going to see that development as it goes along. So they wouldn't have that foreknowledge like those of us who have been watching the series since it started has. Yeah, this was great. This was a good rewind to the beginning. And I'm really glad we got this. I'm really glad Viv and the team decided to like redo this pilot, redo the original, so that they could make something canon to the series. And on top of it, they also killed Viv and almost killed Brandon Rogers. But we know that comes later. Brendan Rager, I think it was, or Brennan Rager. Either way, he's killed later on. That comes later. Um, but that's always funny. Like when creators put themselves in a series just for a gag like that. Like that's the kind of self-insert we want. And Viv is very good at poking fun at herself in this kind of stuff. So that makes sense. Yeah. I want to hear your thoughts though. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Helluva Boss Mission 0? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? How do you like view it compared to the original pilot? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. Thank you as always so much. We'll continue with more Helluva shorts as those come out. And whenever season 3 starts, you know we'll be here for that. Until then, though, I'm Connie. I'm signing off once again. See y'all next time.